Hello students, this is Waqar Ahmed, your economics teacher from Cambridge International School, Dasuha. And in today's class, we will continue chapter number 1, Indian economy on the eve of independence from Indian economic development. And as you are aware, we have covered most of the topics of this chapter, and today we will be covering infrastructure. Before infrastructure, we have covered all the topics which you can see on your screen, and as per the note, before starting any discussion or explanation about infrastructure, we will recap or recall the previously studied topics, demographic condition and occupational structure. So let us move on to that. And as we discussed, demography means characteristics related to population of a particular area, and first of all census means calculation of the population of a particular area of a country or of a state. Britishers started this practice in 1881, and since then it is being conducted regularly without any break after a gap of 10 years, and next census will be conducted next year. Then 1921 is considered the year of great divide, because before 1921 India was in the first stage of demographic transition, in which death rate and birth rate both were higher, resulting in negative growth in population. Means Indian population was declining year on year before 1921. After 1921, India entered into the second stage of demographic transition, meaning after 1921 death rate became lower and lower and birth rate became higher and higher, which gave rise to positive increase in population. So we can say that before 1921 Indian population was declining, and after 1921 Indian population started increasing year on year. As far as literacy levels are concerned, you can see, and we have discussed as well, the overall literacy rate was a very abysmal 16%, and out of that female literacy rate was even more abysmal at a meager 7%. Then mortality rates were higher, means children were expected to die in absence of good health care facilities. And infant mortality rate means children who die before completing even 1 year of age were 218 out of per thousand, which is 40 per thousand in current situation. Life expectancy was very low, 44 years, now it is 68 years. And health, as far as healthcare facilities are concerned, there in generally in most part of India there was no healthcare facility provided by the government. People were dependent on hakims and vaids and all that kind of homegrown remedies, but as far as public healthcare services are concerned, there was no such facility. And in some areas, even if it was available, then the standard and availability was very low. So all this resulted in rampant increase in diseases all over India, which led to higher death rates, as we studied in year of great divide. Then poverty levels were regularly increasing, and one of the main factors was deindustrialization of handicraft industry, as we have discussed in industrial sector. Then occupational structure, it refers to the distribution of workforce among different industries and sectors. And as we know that we can divide any economy into three sectors: primary, secondary and tertiary. Primary sector or agriculture sector was the biggest job provider, which was providing jobs to around 70 to 75% of the working population. And as far as manufacturing or secondary sector is concerned, it was the job provided to least of the population, only 10%, and 15 to 20% of the working population was engaged in tertiary or services sector. And out of these distribution among different sectors and different industries, there was regional variation, means particular areas were showing increase in particular type of sector. For example, Madras Presidency means most of the South India at that point of time. Then Bengal and Mumbai Bombay Presidency were showing a decline in engagement of workforce in primary sector, and the main cause was, as we have studied in industrial sector, most of the cotton and jute industries were being set up in Gujarat, which was in Bombay Presidency at that point of time, and Bengal. So people were coming from rural areas to cities and do job in these newly established factories and industries. But the areas where industries were yet to arrive, or there was no industrialization, like Odisha, Rajasthan and Punjab, more and more people were engaging in primary sector. So the share of workforce in agricultural sector was increasing. Now let us talk about infrastructure. And in today's economy, no one can deny the importance of infrastructure, or we can say that infrastructure is that sector on which all other sectors stand. If any country has got good infrastructure, it will attract foreign investment, and it will generate job opportunities, which will increase aggregate demand, which will lead to positive BOP, increase in foreign exchange reserve. So we all know, and we have studied all of these and the connection of all of these. So we all know that if infrastructure is good, economic development and economic growth is bound to happen, and vice versa as well. And it is not like this is the case for today. It is the case since when we started studying economics as a subject. So we can say that as far as Britishers are considered, they were aware that how important infrastructure and its development is. So they did develop some basic infrastructure in India. Like we all know, railways is a glorified example of infrastructural development and positive contribution of Britishers into India. Then ports, water transport, post and telegraphs were started by Britishers in India. But here is the twist, means no such thing as twist, but here is the thing. The motive behind development of infrastructure by the Britishers was not to provide us Indians facilities or to make our lives economically and socially and politically better. No, this was not the case. The aim was to subserve the colonial interests, means in simple language, whatever infrastructure was developed by them, they developed that infrastructure for themselves, and whatever benefit we Indians get out of that infrastructural development was subsidiary or secondary. And as far as infrastructure is concerned, we can say that, or we will study about roads, railways and waterways. So let us start with roads. And the roads, the situation of roads, the condition of roads was very bad before the advent or before the Britishers came into India. And by bad, we mean here in economics that those roads, there were definitely roads. We all know that GT road existed even before Britishers came into India, but all those roads were not worthy for yearly travel, means in some time of the year they were good to travel, and in some other especially in rainy season they were not good for traveling. So means road did existed in India before the advent of Britishers, but their condition was very bad. So one of the first thing Britishers did after taking over the power from East India Company was to construct all weather roads, and the reason or logic behind that was that it became very easier for them to mobilize army from one part of country to another part of country wherever there was a doubt of uprising. Whenever Britishers felt that in particular part of India people may go against the colonial government, they fortified that area by increasing the presence of army, and for that army need to travel, and for that army need to have an all weather good road. First thing. Second, they built road especially in those areas. If you will Google, then you will get to know about this in detail. They especially built road in those areas from which they can or they were able to source raw material for their industries in Britain. So roads made it very easier for them to transport the raw material in a secure and fast manner to the nearest railway station or nearest port, from where from those ports they send these raw materials to Britain or England. And as far as rural areas are concerned, or those areas which were not supplying any raw material to the Britishers, they always suffered during the situation of natural calamities like famines, and Bengal famines are very famous in that time period of history, because shortage of all weather roads make it difficult for them to take the person or to take their ill pupil with them to the nearest city for whatever treatment was available at that point of time. So Britishers did make good roads, but their motive was to serve themselves, and those people suffered most who used to live in rural areas, and during natural calamities they suffered most because of the absence of all weather roads. So now let us talk about railways, and railway is that crown which is like everyone, there are so many diamonds in the world, but everyone talks about Kohinoor. So similarly, Britishers in whatever capacity they contributed to the Indian economy, but whenever you will talk to someone who was a historian, so he will definitely mention railways at the crowning glory or crowning jewel of Britishers, or crowning gift of Britishers to us Indians, whereas it was the opposite case. How we will be discussing. So first they introduced railway in India in 1850, and as I just told, it is considered one of their most important contributions. What were other contributions we will be discussing in further lessons, but railways is considered one of the most important contributions or gifts by Britishers to us Indians. Then the question arises that what were the most important positive and negative aspects of railways, of development of railways infrastructure in India. So let us talk about the positive aspects first. Railways enabled people to take long journeys, no doubt about it. Earlier, if you wish to go from Delhi to Chennai, you need to do a journey of 1 month or 2 months, something like that. But after the advent of railways, it was a matter of 2 or 3 days, not more than 4 days. First thing. So railways made travel kind of very short, and it broke the cultural and regional barriers among Indians. For example, now we see, and it is a political matter some parts of the time, that there are so many North Indians during this pandemic. You must be seeing that there are so many. Earlier we just knew that there was this interstate immigration, but now we are seeing in this pandemic the real picture of that interstate immigration, how so many millions and millions of pupils of from one state, one part of country are working in other parts of country. So if you will go to Bombay, you will see lot of North Indians there, and that is a political situation there. What made that happen? After the advent of railways, industries were being established in Bombay, and a lot of North Indian pupils, especially from the eastern UP and Bihar, migrated to Bombay in search of jobs. They did petty jobs over there in those mills and factories, and now their son, their grandson, their great grandson, all their means second, third, fourth generation pupils have established themselves strongly in Bombay or Mumbai as we call it now. So who made it possible? Railways. This is how cultural and regional barriers were shattered by railways. Then second, commercialization of agriculture resulted in production of a lot of cash crops. Railways make it possible that we can transport cash crops from one part of the country to another part of the country, or from one part of the country to the nearest port. But this heavy dependence on cash crops resulted in insufficiency of food grains. So this was kind of a negative effect of or negative impact of the advent of railways. Now as far as I just said in the starting of this point, that it is considered to be the crowning jewel, crowning glory of Britishers to India. But 2-3 days earlier I sent you a debate of Mr. Shashi Tharoor, and if you heard that debate in its entirety, then in that debate as well he mentioned that at that point of time, whatever was the cost of development of railways in India, the cost was just double. Meaning, if you are developing 1 miles of railway track in Australia, New Zealand, Britain, France, Italy at that point of time, and the expenditure was 1 crore rupees, for example, in India the expenditure was 2 crore rupees, and plus means double the expenditure plus the loss to the environment, which was incalculable, and that loss has been mentioned in the history book of grade 10th social science. You can have a look there as well. So whatever were the benefits, there were definitely benefits, but the losses were far greater than the benefits of the railways. Now the waterways, the colonial government did develop some waterways and sea lanes into India, but India is or was never considered a country which depends on its waterways for any kind of business. Although for leisure, for tourism, waterways or sea lanes are definitely used, but as far as business is considered, we were and are never considered that sort of a country. But because the Britishers used those waterways and sea lanes, and they used to have one of the best navy in the world at that point of time, not one of the best, the best navy, the Royal Navy. So they were kind of very experienced and expert in developing waterways. So they, for example, they did develop a waterway in Odisha which was parallel to the railways, or we can say that railway line, railway track was parallel to the waterways. But when they opened and started doing business through that waterway, that resulted in huge loss to the exchequer, means huge loss to the government. So they just kind of forfeited the idea of development of waterways further. So it was kind of a failure as far as infrastructure is considered. So this was all about chapter number 1. Examiner might ask you to present the picture of Indian economy in nutshell, means just give the main factors of Indian economy at the time of independence, and the answer of that question is in front of your screen or in front of your eyes on your screen. We have pinpointed or highlighted the main point of every sector we have just discussed. As far as agricultural sector is concerned, labor was surplus and productivity was lower. In industrial sector, we required modernization, we required diversification, we required the production of capital goods into our own countries, and we require that government should invest heavily into industrial sector. Then we all know that as far as foreign trade is considered, Britain used to have a monopoly and it just was a servant to the industries of Britain. Then we just discussed infrastructure was available, but it was insufficient and it was not for the public, for the general people. And there was rampant poverty, means people were poor of India, people were unemployed, and whatsoever economic policy Indian government after independence used to, means was expected to made, it was expected that that policy will be welfare oriented. So, it is a picture which shows us that what, or it is the picture which shows us that what should have been the guidelines in front of Indian government when India became independent in 1947. So, these were the points Indian government kept in mind while making policy in 1947, and what policies were made by Indian government in 1947 and afterwards, and what were the effects, we will be studying in the upcoming chapters. So, that is it for today, students. From Monday onwards, we will have the new series of quiz, June series, and I would like you to tell one thing, that after still so many times I have asked you to attempt the quiz. Generally 80 to 90% students are attempting the quiz, but those 10% who are not attempting the quiz, who are your friends, tell them that it has been specified by CBSE that minimum attendance requirement will be 75%, and we all know that we cannot complete that attendance when schools will open. So, whosoever is not attempting the quiz or who is absent from the quiz, he may have problem in completing the attendance. Tell this to your friends who still are not attempting the quiz, that 75% attendance is required, and if you are not attempting the quiz, then we will think you as absent from online studies. So, that is it for today, students. We may continue this chapter or we may start next chapter. If you have got any doubt in any of the topics, message me. We may take a revision video or doubt clearing video on Monday or Tuesday. So, stay inside, stay healthy, stay safe. Bye.